Welcome, everybody, to the USFL show on the Gruelling Truth Sports Network. As always, the Gruelling Truth is powered by Betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the best sports book or casino that's right for you. Check out Betting.net. I am Mike Goodpaster. I want to welcome in my co-host, Joe Spilman. It's USFL show, week 4, Joe. Week 3. There was some good news when it came to the ratings for the USFL, correct?
There was. So the Birmingham game actually got, in that Birmingham and New Orleans game, got 1.14 million viewers. So it didn't do that bad.
It was week. Up from the main game the week before by a few hundred thousand, wasn't
it? Yes, it was. And also Saturday, the Bandits and the Gamblers competed with the draft, and they drew almost 1 million viewers as well. So that's not bad at all.
Well, they did compete with like the 7th round of the draft, but
right. Well, that's important.
All right, sure it is. Next up,
we're going to future USFL players.
Yeah, maybe if they're that good. All right, let's go ahead. Let's look at last week's games. We're going to start off with the game of the week, the biggest game in the history of the USFL, at least this time around. And hey, there you go. Tristan Young says, "Joe,
what's up, Tristan?"
All right.
I don't know what he wants. He just said, "Joe."
Yeah, he just said Joe, but he's from Cleves too, so he's a man of few words. Now, Tristan's a great guy, and it seems like his son, we get to follow his baseball season pitch by pitch almost on Facebook, Joe.
Yeah, I feel like I'm invested in that young man's career, his baseball career.
The other day, me and my wife were talking about whether Tristan's son would win that tournament or not. But
and actually, I saw some quality innings out of his son the other day live on Facebook. First time on the bump, I think, and looked like he was hurling them in there. So good job, Tristan's son.
All right, so we got the Birmingham Stallions, the only home team in this league. They hosted the New Orleans Breakers. I almost said Saints there. This was the biggest game so far. The Stallions and Breakers entered Saturday night as the only teams to start 2-0. And though the final score may not show it, Joe, the game was close all the way. And had the fourth quarter, kind of went off the rails for the Breakers. But this was really a defensive battle for the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, this was actually a very good game. I enjoyed watching this game. The quarterback play wasn't bad. I think both quarterbacks, what's his name, Jamar Smith, Jamar Smith, and Kyle Slaughter, I believe.
Yeah.
The quarterback play out of them wasn't bad. I don't think it was obviously starter NFL level or caliber, but it was a good game to watch all the way around. Was this the game that, or was that the game before you saw the drop pass into the end zone? Wide receiver dribbled it, caught it, ran it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just a good all around game to watch. I enjoyed it. It was good football.
The killer there was the missed field goal with 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
Stupid kickers to
way
quote Peyton
left.
Manning.
Way left.
And I thought Slaughter looked pretty good, but his one interception was really costly. Birmingham's Jamar Smith had a pair of TDs and a pick. He only completed 39.5% of his passes. Slaughter threw for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Birmingham was technically the away team. But I'm telling you, they're going to be a hard team to beat with the energy this crowd gives them every week.
Well, so the first game that I went to with Birmingham, the inaugural game, I think right around 20,000 people there, just shy of 20,000. And I think they had about the same crowd Friday night. And, I think New Orleans is a better team than Birmingham on paper and the way that they play. But, I think when you got 20,000 people in a stadium that's not that big anyway, I think it only holds about 40,000, cheering for you. I think that gives you a little extra bump to succeed in the game.
Yeah, and Tristan says that he loves watching all the shows, guys, which tells you Tristan doesn't have much to do. All right, next up, I'm just kidding. I love Tristan. Tristan was the team photographer for the Northern Kentucky River Monsters when I coached him. Did you know that, Joe?
I did know that, but I know that he is a good photographer, and he did it for a while. I don't know if he's still doing it, but if he is, and you're looking for somebody to take your pictures, maybe you guys could check out Tristan Young.
Yeah, if you're in the Cincinnati area, Tristan Young's the guy to check out. Game number 2, the Tampa Bay Bandits, who got whitewashed, for lack of a better term, last week, down to Houston Gamblers in another excellent football game. Final score was 26-25. This was the game we were talking about, was played while the NFL draft was going on. And Houston led 23-14 at the half, maintained a 9-point lead into the final quarter. Jordan Tamu ran for a 5-yard touchdown to cut the lead to 2 points with 11 minutes remaining in the game's final minute. Tamu got loose for a 33-yard run, setting up a game-winning 46-yard field goal with 13 seconds left. Tamu looked the way we thought he would look, threw for 255, a touchdown, and an interception. Clayton Thorson for the Houston Gamblers played well, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And when we look at this, Joe, we're starting to see better quarterback play. I think these guys are getting more used to the game.
Well, I think so. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it seems like, at least in these two matchups, the playbook's getting opened up a little bit more. So, the first week or 2 weeks of the USFL looked like a hybrid between a college and a high school game with some of the run plays and just the very rudimentary basic plays that they were running. And you're starting to see, more intricate plays. You're starting to see the line pull a little bit more. So I think maybe these quarterbacks and especially the better ones like Tamu are starting to get into a groove a little bit, because the quarterback play wasn't that bad. There's still some, it's not quite there. Kind of reminds me of, the first couple of times you go out golfing every year, your short game's just not there, and you're kind of seeing that with the quarterbacks as well.
All right, Tristan Young says, still do for sure. Make sure you check out Young Photography on Facebook, and that plug will cost you $50, Tristan.
Right.
All right. When we look at this, though, I think Tampa Bay as a team right now, they're probably the second or third, probably the third best team. But I think right here that there is more room to improve with Tampa Bay's team than almost anybody else. Do you agree or disagree?
I think so. I think they have they're either the second or third best team in the league right now. I don't know where I would rank them against Birmingham, either second or third, but there's a whole lot of room for improvement. And they got some good players on that team. So,
all right, Michigan mauls the Maulers. The Pittsburgh Maulers got devastated again, 24-0. And to make matters worse, they lost to Jeff Fisher, 24-0.
Yeah, that's fucking terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad, and
I don't even know.
I mean, Pittsburgh just doesn't have that much talent. All three of Michigan's scores came on the ground. Shea Peterson and Paxton Lynch still sucked. They're terrible. 11 of 25, 72 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. The Panthers' defense looked great. The offense looked the exact opposite. But then again, how good's Michigan's defense to shut out Pittsburgh? Shouldn't everybody shut out Pittsburgh's, Joe?
Everybody. So I think
Damn.
You gonna make it?
I don't know. I've had this damn cold all week, or my sinuses.
So, I think Pittsburgh's probably in jeopardy of going 0-10 this year, and we won't.
Are you a moron? Just keep talking.
My screen went blank. I'm sorry. I think Pittsburgh's probably in jeopardy of going 0-10 this year, because Michigan is not that good at all. So the quarterback play was just atrocious out of both these teams. And I think Mike is having some technical difficulties coughing there. He's been sick for a couple days. Shea Patterson in this game for Michigan threw for 48 yards. He was 8 for 17, and only completed 47% of his passes. They did get some help with their running game from Reggie Corbin, who had a great game, and I think he broke about a 60 or 70 yard run for a score in this game. So, Michigan was really able to beat Pittsburgh on the ground. It had nothing to do with the quarterbacks or the leadership of the quarterbacks, I don't think.
Hey, look at this. Steve Risley says, Joe, do you need me to jump in and pinch hit?
I didn't know what was going on, Mike. That's the first time that's ever happened.
Well, a professional like Risley just keeps talking when I jump off because he knows there's a reason for it.
I didn't know you jumped off. I thought
I had to blow my nose. It was draining down my throat. It was about to choke me to death.
Well,
all right, next up. The New Jersey Generals get past the Philadelphia Stars. This
Yeah,
game surprised me because Philadelphia looked like a pretty good team earlier. I mean, just the last few weeks. But I was always questioned about their defense. In New Jersey, I think they lost a couple close games early. But the Generals did a lot of damage on the ground here. They rushed for 269 yards in the game. Trey Williams led the way with 110 yards. Johnson had 94. Victor had 51 along with 2 touchdowns. And the Stars got almost nothing from their rushing attack. A total of 31 yards, Joe.
Yeah, Perez, when he was in there, he did play well. But DeAndre Johnson for New Jersey, I think, I don't really want to compare him to any NFL quarterback, but I think it's such a threat at this level of football when you have a quarterback that comes in and throws halfway decent. He could throw out of the pocket, he can move around, and then put up 100 yards on the ground on you. So, I think with the wins that New Jersey has gotten this year, I think it's really been because of him offensively.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's look at the Week 4 predictions. And if you want to bet the games, you got to find the best site to do that. That would be betting.net. Betting.net finds the best promotions, offers, and bonus codes so you don't have to. Head over to their website now to take advantage of things like free bets and matching deposits. And, Joe, you got a NASCAR show, and I heard last week you nailed the winner and made a little bit of money.
I did. So I actually pick 5 drivers every week. My top predictions of the race, who was going to finish in the top 5 and possibly win. And actually every week I bet my drivers.
I'll tell you what, Joe, I'm really disappointed in you.
Why?
Because I was told from somebody that you used their pick to win, and you didn't give them credit.
I didn't use anybody's pick to win. I picked first Steve Risley.
Oh, Steve Risley said you used his pick.
No, I picked first that week. He stole my driver, and he stole all my drivers this week.
All right, so we're at the Week 4 predictions. Right now, Joe Spilman leads me by 1 game. Anybody that's watched these shows for the last 7 years knows how it's going to end up. But we're going to go ahead and start picking the games. We're going to look at the Stars versus the Panthers. I'll start it out as we rotate. And I'll tell you, do we really need to talk about this that much? I think we might, because I'm not real sold on the Stars right now. I'm not real sold on the Panthers either, of course.
Yeah.
But when I look at this game, the Panthers' defense could give them trouble. And I know this. I really don't know anything on this. When I look at this game, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to pick the Michigan Panthers. I think the Panthers' defense will shut the Stars down, and Jeff Fisher will get his second win, Joe.
Okay. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Stars in this game. I kind of think this game's a wash.
Steve Risley says you stole his driver to win.
Well, Steve Risley's wrong. He's lying right to us right now.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I think this game's a wash. I think this game could go either way. At the end of the day, I still hate Michigan, so I'm just going to take the Stars.
All right, Generals versus the Maulers. I'm pretty sure a grown-ass man in a situation like this is going to show us how tough he is and pick Pittsburgh. Right, Joe?
No, I'm going to be a bitch, and I'm going to go with the team that I know is going to win.
Yeah. Your co-host, Stephen Ryan, on the NASCAR show always told me you were kind of a bitch. I even think I remember back in like junior high school, Tristan telling me you were a little bit of a bitch too. All right, next up, the Tampa Bay Bandits. The Tampa Bay Bandits against the Birmingham Stallions. I think this is a good matchup. I'm still going to go with the Stallions in the home crowd, though, Joe.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I think I learned my lesson not taking the Stallion. I'm going to go ahead and take Birmingham in this game. That home field advantage every game, I think, is a lot to overcome for these teams.
All right, next up, the Houston Gamblers versus the New Orleans Breakers. That's your pick, Joe. Don't screw it up.
I'm going to take New Orleans. I think New Orleans, even though they lost last week to Birmingham, I think they're the best team in this league.
You think they're better than Birmingham?
I do, and I think when they play, I think probably Birmingham and New Orleans is probably going to play the first playoff game in Canton, Ohio here in a couple months, and I think New Orleans is probably going to beat Birmingham when they play in that game.
All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to agree with you with the New Orleans Breakers. I think they're the second best team in the league right now. I know Birmingham's got home field advantage, but they did win the game by 9 points, even though it was a close game. And see, the scary thing about this, though, they keep playing at home and they keep winning. The amount of confidence they get can make them a bitch to deal with even when you go to Canton.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I don't think Birmingham's a bad team. Like I said, Jamar, what is his name? Their quarterback, DeAndre Johnson.
What you're telling me is we're doing a USFL show and you don't know the best team's quarterback.
Yeah, I didn't say they were the best team, but
second best team.
Yes, DeAndre. There's a lot of players we're dealing with here, Mike. Jesus.
Okay.
Jamar Smith is not. Yes, he is. I think he's an okay quarterback, and I think that he's a good team leader. So I think that they can probably pull off a win, but I don't think that they're the best team in the league right now.
And I think the Gamblers Breakers game is the best game of this week. I think the Bandit Stallions is a good one too, though. I mean, those to me are the four best teams in this league.
Right, and they're all in the same division, right? They're all in the South, so that North division's kind of terrible.
Yeah. So how are they doing in the playoffs? Are they taking the top two from the North play each other and the top two from the South play each other?
Right, and then obviously the winners advance to the championship game the next week. So, we'll see how it goes. Did you see that information I sent you? I couldn't get very much information on it, but is that true, or is that just in the world of gossip that
is what true, Joe?
That these players
do you believe I really read all your text? What?
Yes, I do. Well, then you send read receipts that say you read them.
Yeah. That just means I clicked it and started to look at it. But if it's too long, I just hang it.
So are these players trying to unionize already? Is this true?
I don't know. I don't know why they would attempt to right now.
Either do I. And if it is true that they are doing that, I think that is the beginning of the end for this league already.
Why is that, Joe?
Well, because there's only one reason to unionize the Players Association, and that's for more money. And if you're already doing that 3 or 4 games into the first season, before your league's already established, that union, like most unions.
All right, I can tell you this. This is what is going on as of right now. Okay. Right now, players from the USFL are joining forces with the United Steelworkers. According to the daily union elections, 360 players are unionizing during the 2022 season.
What do you think that means for the league?
What do you think it means for the league, Joe? Why do you always asking me all the questions? I'm the one that asked the questions. You just answer. Remember, I host the show.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that in the first year of your league, before the league's even established, you don't know where you're going to be at at the end of the season as far as income and money brought in. I think that is the beginning of the end. I think that'll kill the league. And I know all these players signed 2-year contracts at the beginning of the season, and I think some of them have already started to get a little antsy with the upcoming of the XFL next year and not wanting to be tied down to a possible failing league with the USFL next year. Just my thoughts. I could be totally wrong, and I probably am, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, to me, they're being compensated for unionizing with the steelworkers. Yeah, I don't think they're doing anything excessive here yet. I mean, to me, they are unionizing with them, and the steelworkers actually have a strategic education at Capella University, Strayer University, so players can choose to take lessons both in person or by way of online study to complete and get their degrees. I don't see anything else beyond that yet that I have found.
What didn't the USFL already have that deal though, that they were paying for players' colleges or to finish college while they were in the
doubt it. I mean, they're making them pay $75 a day for their own hotel room.
Yeah, which is terrible.
And they're making $40,000 though.
So, going into week 4, Mike, right now, What is your outlook if we're doing this in week 4 next year?
I think we probably will be. I mean, the fact that the ratings have actually went up the last week or two, if you know what I mean. I mean, a couple years. Oh, Steve Risley made some comments, but we don't worry about him. I'm just kidding, Steve. Mike, you've got to tell him who's the best quarterback is, and then he'll take credit for it. Oh, a little shot at you for your money wager.
Steve.
He says, couple unionization with establishing home bases, and the funds will dry up quickly. All right, I think this. It's the same thing I've always thought. I do think there is a better chance this league does make it to week 2, though, just because the ratings are starting to go up a little bit. I think the quality of play was much better this past week than it was before. I don't think this is a total loss. I think it can be saved still. I think that what we see, the games are really professionally done. I mean, Fox, whichever networks are doing them, do a really good job. Looks like they treat it like an NFL game. Still at the end of this, if the XFL really is partnered with the NFL, the USFL's in trouble because you can't compete with I mean, the NFL, put it like this. I don't know how long the TV contract is that Fox gave them. Wasn't it like 2 or 3 years?
No, it was 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So I can imagine this. Who else does Fox pay? Does a professional football league to show their games?
The NFL.
Okay, so if the XFL is partnered with the NFL, do you really think there'll be a 3rd year of that TV contract from Fox?
I don't, but Fox owns the USFL, right? Fox Sports owns it.
That is the other issue.
But, you know,
the NFL does not like competition.
No, it doesn't. So do you think that there's a probability, and I know that we're trying to look into the future here, and neither one of us have a crystal ball, with the XFL being an upstart next year, do you think that there's a possibility at some point that the USFL and the XFL go into a partnership?
No.
No.
Not unless the ratings get a lot better, because the NFL and the XFL, if the NFL is backing the XFL doesn't need USFL. They'll just break them. Why would you want to join with them if you could break them and take all their players and add them to your rosters?
Well, and I get that. And that's where I think, we talked about this a little bit last week, where the idea was to have all these games in Birmingham and save on money in the first year while the league was being established. However, by doing that, you've basically only established one team with the Birmingham Stallions. There is no base for the New Orleans Breakers or the Philadelphia Stars or the Tampa Bay Bandits. I mean, people in those cities are watching the games maybe, but they don't have any connection with these teams. They've never seen them play. All they do is have their city's name, and until they can go to a stadium and watch them play, there's not going to be a lot of backing for these teams. And I think
the problem is all these cities are where you've got established NFL bases. Pittsburgh, when they had the Maulers in the mid 80s, they drew crap. They were a terrible team. Same thing now. You look at Tampa Bay, they did really well in those 3 seasons they were there. They drew really well. But the difference was, back then, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 83, 84, 85 were horrid. They were terrible. So the Bandits gave them a chance to win. They had Steve Spurrier. It was exciting. Now you've got an NFL team with Tom Brady that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago and lost in the divisional playoffs last year. Birmingham, that'll still work. Philadelphia? The Stars had the best team. They drew all right, but it wasn't like the crowds were huge when they played in Philadelphia back then.
Right, so. and I think maybe, and I know that these teams are kind of a throwback to the original league and where at least the original 8 teams and where the league was kind of established then. But
just keep talking, Joe.
Where the league was established then, but. I think that this league probably would have been better suited to have teams, in like Louisville, Kentucky, Fort Wayne, Indiana, places that aren't an NFL market right now, but do have the need or the want for professional football. I know Louisville, Kentucky had a arena team a couple years back. I think it drew okay crowds. But I think you're right, Mike. when
Let me stop you there, Joe, because I coached a team that played in Louisville at Freedom Hall that sat 24,000 people, and they were lucky if there was 1,000 people there. And I mean, come on, you had a huge draw because I was coming to town, and they still could only sell 1,000 tickets.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm trying to agree with the fact that, it's going to be hard to compete with NFL teams. And having it in the spring, yeah, people do miss football. Football junkies like you and I, we miss football. But
how about this? Put teams in places like Portland, Oregon, Sacramento, California, places that are fairly big markets, but they don't have a professional football team.
Columbus, Ohio, be a good one.
And the thing is this, Steve says they won't want those markets, but you know what? When you look at the old USFL, places like Birmingham drew the best crowds. Memphis had a team. You had Reggie White on that team. They drew big crowds. And the thing is, right now, a big TV market's not worth anything if less than 1% of that market watches the game with that TV. So Portland is a big enough market that, if you had a strong viewership there, it would be fine. There's a lot of smaller cities like that. Orlando, Sacramento, San Antonio. San Antonio did great in the AAF, right? Their first game, they drew like 40,000 people. So if you put them in big markets, people in big cities with professional teams, major league teams, don't want to go watch minor league stuff.
I agree with that.
That's how I take that.
Right. And even though it's spring football and you're talking about fall football with the NFL, if you had a USFL team in Cincinnati, I'm not going to throw down what I'm doing to make it to a USFL game for a Cincinnati USFL team every week, like I do for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's just not going to happen because it's minor league football. And I think there's a need for minor league football in the United States, Mike. I think we've said that in the past, but I think the market is not going to get much bigger than it already is. I do think you'll have a fan base in the individual cities in the XFL and the USFL. But, it's still a minor league sport, and it's going to draw a minor league crowd.
Yes. So. All right. We're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up so I can quit coughing. My eyes are watering. Look like I've been crying. Looks like I'm Steve Risley when I watch All My Children or Guiding Light or whatever soap he watches. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We got a big weekend, though. We've got huge events all over the place. You got the NBA playoffs. We call this at the Gruelling Truth the Sports Equinox, where everything comes together. You got Bivol versus Canelo on Saturday night. You've got UFC, I don't know what number it is now, like 247, 248, something like that. You got the Kentucky Derby. We got shows on all this. You got the NHL playoffs starting. We've got it all covered. Make sure you check us out at The Gruelling Truth. Follow us on Twitter at Gruelling Truth. Go like and follow us on Facebook. Like, subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you check out the Caesar Sportsbook underneath of us. Link to go bet all the sporting events. And remember, with betting.net, it's not just sports betting. Betting.net compares the best online casinos. Sit back, relax, and play the top online slots, poker, and table games. Steve Risley, go play you some online slots. We're going to go ahead. We got a comment probably from him. Oh yeah, I forgot. Also, Grand Prix and NASCAR. Yeah.
The Miami Grand Prix. Right?
The Miami Grand Prix. I did a show about it. And Marcus from the Gruelling Truth will tell you exactly who's going to win and how to bet the race. Just like Steve Risley will let Joe Spilman know this week who's going to win the race, and Joe will go make some money. Make sure you check out the NASCAR show with Ryan, Joe, and Steve Risley. Anything else before we wrap it up, Joe?
Yeah, I just, the next time you do an excellent F1 show with Marcus, let him know that none of us in this country know what a kilometer is.
I know what a kilometer is. It's a unit of measurement that Europeans use. That in 1975, when I was in kindergarten, 76, when I was in first grade, all the way through like fourth or fifth grade, they tried to teach me that and what Celsius was.
Yeah, Jimmy.
He's like, it's going to be 32 degrees Celsius in Miami.
That's 89 degrees.
That's pretty damn cold. And then
That's
he
89.
said, no, it's different in Fahrenheit. I'm like, hell, I'm just a stupid American. I don't know these things. They tried to teach it to us in school, but obviously most Americans were too stupid to learn that. Or they were just smart enough to know that you should measure things by feet and inches.
I have another theory. They just didn't like Jimmy Carter.
Nobody liked Jimmy Carter. Except for the Afghanistans. Or Afghanistanis. They liked him, and the Russians
Steve
liked
says
him.
it's 0.6 of a mile, you idiot. I know what a kilometer is, Steve. It was a joke.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure that since Steve has Google, Steve Googled that shit. He didn't know it.
Yeah. It was like, hey. All right, wrap it up.
I went to Kelly Business School. Now I do a NASCAR show with Joe Spilman. All right, see what a college degree got me? All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Oh, man. We got to get off here before Steve interrupts us with another comment that, Steve, we will ignore this time because we are at 30 minutes, and this show doesn't go for days like some shows do. All right, guys, make sure you check us out on Facebook. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Go check out betting.net. But he's Joe Spilman. I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Gruelling Truth, where the legends speak.